Shoyo Hinata is just your average short kid with way too much energy and absolutely no business playing volleyball. But he saw tall dudes jumping and said, "Yeah, I can do that too." This guy runs on pure hype and anime logic. He's got no height, no real skills, and no backup plan, but he's out here jumping like women jump into conclusions and trying to spike on people twice his size. We open with one undersized volleyball gremlin staring down the court like it's the gates of hell. This is Hinata, the human version of Red Bull with legs. No height, no brains, just pure chaos and knee energy. Next scene, this little hobbit is glued to a TV. He's watching volleyball giants smack the ball around like it's WWE. Everyone on screen is built like basketball posts, but there's one short king, the little giant, who's outjumping every tree branch in that match. Now Hinata thinks he can become a legend too. This boy really saw one short player and decided to destroy his spinal cord, chasing dreams. Everyone on screen is built like basketball posts, but there's one short king, the little giant, who's outjumping every tree branch in that match. Now Hinata thinks he can become a legend too. This boy really saw one short player and decided to destroy his spinal cord chasing dreams. 3 years later, the goblin finally shows up at nationals. He dragged a few other underdeveloped teenagers with him and somehow became captain. Man's got the voice of a pigeon but thinks he's a war general. He starts barking rules like anyone in his team has talent. One of the teammates reminds him that their opponent is Kitagawa Daiichi, the team with real athletes, not these little crumbs. But Hinata, he's delusional. He thinks trying hard makes up for 30 centimeters of height difference. Right on cue, the Kitagawa squad walks in and everyone starts sweating. These boys are tall, angry, and built like they lift cement blocks for fun. And leading them is Kageyama, the king of the court, with a face like a Gojo's but hands like a god. Hinata's team starts shaking like loose jelly, but the goblin still believes she can go down, until his stomach betrays him and sends him running to the bathroom. Man didn't even touch a ball, and his intestines surrendered. While he's in there, Kitagawa players are running their mouths, but Kageyama walks in and slaps them with reality. Even Satan respects the game. Meanwhile, Hinata steps out and tries to act like he was backing Kageyama the whole time. Pathetic. Kageyama looks down at him like he's a bug on his shoe. Then he asks why this hobbit even showed up. Hinata says he can't reach the sun, but he can jump. The court might as well be a trampoline the way this kid launches. Kageyama doesn't care. He just vows to destroy him. Back on the court, practice is a war zone. Kageyama is out here screaming at his own teammates. Man runs the court like a dictator with a whistle. Even the coach has to remind him that speed alone won't fix his rotten attitude. Just 5 boys running around like chickens on a hot plate. But Hinata? He claps for his useless teammates like they deserve it. His optimism is stupid, but it's loud. Flashback. This clown wanted to join volleyball in junior high, but turns out he was the only one. The whole team was just him and a dream. But instead of giving up, he trained by himself. He begged random kids to throw balls at him. They told him to go touch grass. He got mocked for joining the girls' volleyball team, but even that didn't stop him. He practiced every day. Present day, he finally gets a perfect set. He jumps like a lunatic and slams it straight into a Kitagawa block. Kageyama watches him. Another spike. Another block. Hinata's stressed, sweating through his tiny jersey. His teammates try to cheer him up, but they're all useless anyway. Meanwhile, Kageyama is yelling like someone stole his lunch. His team's winning, but he still hates everyone around him. The man's toxic, but he's efficient, just like Aomine from Kuroko no Basket. Then Hinata scores. One lucky spike. The gym shakes. Kageyama's pissed. Kitagawa sends a rocket serve. Hinata's team fumbles like usual. Ball's flying, but then Hinata jumps again. He's basically flying. He spikes it. Too hard. Ball lands outside. Foul. Game over. Kitagawa wins. Kageyama walks up to him, looks him dead in the eye, and basically tells him he's trash, asking him what he's been doing for the past 3 years. Actually, he does cry, right in front of everyone, but still promises he'll beat this court tyrant one day. Now we cut to training montage. Hinata's running, spiking, and playing with girls just to sharpen his game. And guess what? 1 year later, the midget gets into Karasuno High, the school of fallen legends. It's his first day. He walks into the gym like he owns it. And there he is, the king, Kageyama. Same dead eyes, same snarl. The 2 idiots lock eyes like it's a WWE reunion. Hinata screams. Kageyama looks like he wants to file a restraining order. They couldn't have chosen a better name? He reminds me of Hinata from Naruto. Crowbrain Kageyama is standing there like he owns the place while short stack Hinata is burning with anger because this giraffe-looking guy doesn't recognize him. Kageyama finally pretends he remembers. Kageyama knows that Shrimp Hinata can jump, run, and pull off some crazy moves, but his brain works like a potato and he can't use his skills properly. Angry Aunt Hinata screams that he lost to Kageyama last time, but swears this time he's going to destroy him. They start barking at each other like two stray dogs until 3 clowns from Karasuno show up: Sugawara the softie, Daiichi the angry dad, and Tanaka the bald maniac. These 3 circus rejects show up and start yapping about Kageyama and Hinata. Daiichi, the guy built like a fridge, points at Kageyama and calls him out. Kageyama, being the socially awkward scarecrow he is, just agrees like a robot. Meanwhile, Sugawara is trying to act cool, but everyone's ignoring him like he's yesterday's trash. They start talking about Kageyama's height being 180 centimeters, while poor Hinata is standing there like an abandoned puppy getting ignored. Finally, the little volcano explodes and screams hello like a maniac. Tanaka, the walking skinhead, recognizes Hinata and tells him they watched his match. Sugawara, the polite jellybean, compliments his jumping power. Tanaka, being the loudmouth he is, laughs and says Hinata is basically a jumping bean. Hinata, always ready to bark back, proudly says he knows he's small, but he can jump like a grasshopper on steroids, and he dreams of becoming Karasuno's ace. Tanaka laughs like a donkey hearing that. Kageyama the stick says that if Hinata doesn't fix his 1,000 mistakes, he can forget about being ace. Of course, this pisses off the red-faced shrimp again, and they start fighting like 2 toddlers in a sandbox. Daiichi, the team's grumpy grandpa, tries to stop them, reminding them they're teammates now. But these 2 peanut brains don't listen. Suddenly, Vice Principal walks in, looking like he's about to send everyone to detention. Tanaka, the street dog, warns them to behave because the Vice Principal hates noise more than anything. But Hinata, being the stubborn little goat, doesn't stop. Instead, he challenges Kageyama to a showdown. Kageyama, always ready to act tough, agrees. They get ready for a battle right there. Kageyama throws the ball like he's trying to kill someone. Hinata, the tiny acrobat, dodges it like a pro. Kageyama, the angry lamppost, insults him by asking if that's all he's learned. He fires another ball, and this time Hinata actually manages to receive it. After that, chaos breaks loose, and Tanaka and Hinata end up laughing like idiots. Vice Principal leaves the scene, probably questioning his life choices. Daiichi gets called aside by the Vice Principal, probably to get another headache lecture. When Daiichi returns, he drops a bomb. He says they found out the Vice Principal's secret but still got forgiven. Meanwhile, Kageyama and Hinata are still fighting like 2 drunken chickens. Daiichi, the human brick wall, finally loses his patience. He explains that Karasuno used to beat big teams and even reach nationals, but now they are so pathetic that other teams call them wingless crows. But Daiichi, bless his angry soul, is determined to bring the team back to nationals. He makes it very clear, with a face scarier than a horror movie villain, that he doesn't care if Kageyama and Hinata were enemies before. Now they're one team, and if they keep fighting like idiots, he's going to kick them both out. Hinata and Kageyama almost wet themselves looking at Daiichi's serial killer face. Daiichi says even if they are talented, they're useless if they can't work together. He kicks their sorry butts out of the gym like they're yesterday's garbage. Outside, these 2 clowns actually beg to come back, promising to behave. Kageyama, still the salty giraffe, shoves Hinata and says he can play all positions himself. Daiichi, the stone-faced dad, just peeks out, laughs, and slams the door shut. Hinata yells, calling Kageyama a stupid rat. He peeks through the window and whines about how they'll even play a match now. Kageyama's rusty brain sparks an idea. He tells Hinata they'll challenge the team to a 2-on-2 match. If they win, the team has to accept them. Hinata, always the loudmouth, asks what happens if they lose. But Kageyama, the frozen chicken, says losing is not even possible. Hinata, not caring about anything anymore, just says he wants to play volleyball, even if it means dealing with Kageyama's ugly mug every day. Then, a beautiful girl shows up at the court. Tanaka, the certified simp, immediately tries to hit on her, but she ignores him like he's invisible. Night falls. Sugawara, the soft marshmallow, wonders if Kageyama and Hinata will really challenge them. Right on cue, these 2 numbskulls show up and throw down their challenge. They make it clear, if they win, the team must accept them. If they lose, they'll accept any punishment, even cleaning toilets with toothbrushes. Daiichi adds a twist, saying 2 more first years are joining, so it'll be a 3-on-3 match. Baldy Tanaka gets thrown onto Hinata and Kageyama's team to even it out. Daiichi, the bulldozer, drops another bomb, saying if Kageyama's team loses, he's not letting Kageyama be the setter. Daiichi calls Kageyama self-centered and arrogant, basically the human version of a traffic cone. He sets the match for Saturday morning and slams the door like a judge sentencing them to death. Hinata and Kageyama sit there plotting. Hinata tells Kageyama he should be a spiker because spikers are way cooler than setters. Kageyama, the angry pencil, grabs Hinata's shirt and lifts him like a bag of potatoes. He roasts Hinata, saying he knows nothing about volleyball. A setter, according to Kageyama, is the brain of the team, the one who controls everything. So of course, he wants that important role. Hinata doesn't get it, but just nods because his tiny brain is already fried. Then they realize they need a place to practice. Tanaka, the human wrecking ball, tells them the court is free at 5 a.m. These two idiots actually agree. Morning comes. The two sleepyheads drag their dead bodies to the court, but surprise, the gate is locked. Just when these two headless chickens are training, Tanaka the bald bulldozer shows up with the keys. He says they have to empty the court before 7 a.m. Then we jump back to the last night's drama, where Daiichi the angry grandpa says that Giraffe Kageyama has crazy talent, but he loves to play alone like a sad clown. Daiichi says a selfish setter is useless for any team. Meanwhile, the rubber ball Hinata has crazy speed and hops like a frog on a sugar rush. He only lost in junior high because he had no decent setter. On the other hand, Kageyama the royal idiot needs a spiker who can smash his toss like a missile. Daiichi the wise rockhead believes that if these two circus freaks work together, Karasuno could become a killer team. Back in the present, brainless Hinata is daydreaming about how Little Giant once trained here. Then we see that Kageyama the scarecrow and Hinata the grasshopper are practicing. Hinata whines that he wants to do spiking. Tanaka the skinhead shows up and warns them that Daiichi, even though he acts like a saint, turns into a demon when angry. Hearing this, our two idiots speed up their training like scared puppies. Sugawara the soft marshmallow arrives and says he won't snitch to Daiichi about their training. Practice begins again. Kageyama, the soulless stick, sets a beautiful toss for Tanaka, but when Shrimp Hinata asks for one too, Kageyama says no like the spoiled brat he is. Hinata begs like a lost puppy and says if he learns to receive, will he get tosses too? Kageyama, being the desperate donkey he is, agrees because he wants to win at any cost. Sugawara the gentle ghost says, if Kageyama never tosses to Hinata, how will the idiot learn receiving? But before anything more happens, the clock hits 7 a.m., so they stop playing. Training ends. Later, we jump to a scene where bald-headed Tanaka is sleeping like a rock in class because he woke up too early. Meanwhile, Hinata the flying monkey and Sugawara the soft cloud are practicing downstairs. Sugawara, being the kind-hearted fool he is, offers to toss balls for Hinata. Hinata's eyes sparkle like a dumb cartoon character because he loves spiking more than breathing. Sugawara reveals that he is the official setter of Karasuno, even though he looks like a scared cat half the time. Hinata says his junior high buddies always tossed for him without crying about it, and he even practiced with the girls' team, like a hopeless volleyball addict. Sugawara, the curious marshmallow, asks why Hinata hates Kageyama so much. Hinata says Kageyama the giant broomstick was the brick wall he crashed into during the junior high match, making him lose badly. Kageyama, the ghost, is secretly listening like a creep from behind the wall. Sugawara says Hinata's real goal is to beat Kageyama one day. Hinata puffs his chest like a confused rooster and says he wants to be a better player than Kageyama and defeat everyone easily. Sugawara laughs inside because he knows Hinata can't even tie his shoelaces properly sometimes. Sugawara tells him Kageyama isn't his enemy, but a future teammate. Hinata pulls a weird face like a constipated raccoon, but finally agrees. School ends, and headless chicken Hinata rushes to the volleyball court. Some big dudes are working out there. Since dumb little Hinata is not allowed inside, he copies them from outside like a nosy neighbor. Suddenly, Kageyama the walking skeleton shows up and drags Hinata away for secret practice. They practice like lunatics. During one rally, the ball gets stuck in a tree because of course it does. Hinata, the midget dreamer, wonders why Kageyama is called king. He thinks he needs a cool name too because why should only the giraffe have a title? Meanwhile, Sugawara and Tanaka, the ball disaster, are chatting about the two new first-year recruits joining the team. Cut back to Kageyama and Hinata, still practicing like two broken robots. It's late at night and they look like two zombies now. Suddenly, two new clowns arrive. One is Tsukishima, the walking lamppost, and the other is Yamaguchi, the shy balloon. Tsukishima, the tall scarecrow, starts teasing Kageyama, calling him king in the most annoying voice possible. Kageyama, the short-fused volcano, gets super pissed, but tries to act cool. Tsukishima, being the professional troll he is, reminds Kageyama about how much his old teammates hated him. Hinata, the confused hamster, has no idea what's going on. Kageyama, too mad to talk properly, tells Hinata to leave with him. Tsukishima says maybe he should actually try winning on Saturday. Before these walking disasters leave, Hinata shows off by jumping and snatching the ball from Tsukishima's hand, shocking the tall skeleton. Hinata says he will snatch victory too, just like he snatched the ball. The two newcomers say they will be enemies until Saturday even though they are on the same team. Kageyama tries to walk away like a grumpy cat, but Hinata, the stubborn goat, drags him back, saying practice isn't over. They train harder now. Scenes flash showing that Kageyama and Hinata practice daily like possessed maniacs. One morning, they are seen playing at the volleyball court. Hinata, the little powerhouse, is doing insane. He has not dropped a ball in 15 minutes. The bald eagle Tanaka and Marshmallow Sugawara watch with wide eyes. Meanwhile, Kageyama, the salty giraffe, gets mad and purposely tosses a bad ball to make Hinata fail. But Hinata, the stubborn little frog, still saves it like a champ. Kageyama is shook to the core because this shrimp is actually getting good. Kageyama remembers his own stupid words about tossing to Hinata if he ever learns to receive. Swallowing his oversized pride, Kageyama finally tosses a real set to Hinata. Hinata's face lights up like a Christmas tree. He smashes the ball with pure joy. Kageyama tells Hinata that no matter what happens, they must win the upcoming match. The next morning, Hinata, the caffeine squirrel, sprints like a maniac to the court. Kageyama, never the one to be outdone, chases him like an angry dad. Both idiots reach the court, dead tired, but fired up for more action. Just then, the two annoying twigs Tsukishima and Yamaguchi appear, ready to ruin the day again. Yamaguchi, the confused broccoli, shows up too. Everyone is warming up like excited headless chickens. Dumb Daiichi says he will play with Asahi and Yamaguchi's dumb team. Su Ugly Seima, the professional loudmouth, starts roasting Kageyama, Nada, and Tanaka, saying he wants to see the so-called king lose badly. Hearing this, Hothead Tanaka gets triggered and shouts they will crush them like bugs. The match starts and Donkey Tanaka somehow scores a point, making Nada jump like a kid who found candy. The ball flies toward Kageyama the statue, who casually tosses it toward Nata like he's feeding pigeons. Nata, the tiny tornado, jumps to spike but Asahi blocks him like a brick wall. Nata thinks another bloody wall is standing in his way. Su Ugly Seima, the proud troll, laughs at Nata and says if Nata was 307 meters taller, he would be a star because his jumps are actually good. Kageyama, the frozen penguin, tosses again to Nata, but Nata's spike is blocked, like it's a joke. The score is a sad 4-6. Tanaka, the bulldozer, keeps scoring while poor Nata keeps getting blocked like a noob. Asahi mocks Kageyama, asking why he isn't tossing like the almighty king anymore. Because of the brainless Kageyama's toss, Nada's team manages to get one more point. Then Kageyama tries to act cool and jumps to serve the ball. Daiichi the potato somehow receives it properly. Tanaka, our muscle for brains, says Daiichi is weirdly good at receiving. Meanwhile, Asahi keeps roasting Kageyama, calling him king, like a broken record. Nata, the permanently confused chicken, pops up and asks about this king thing. Asahi laughs like a villain and explains that Kageyama's teammates gave him that stupid nickname because Kageyama acted like a dictator, bossing around everyone like a grumpy grandpa king. Flashback time. We see Kageyama back in the day yelling at his poor teammates. They complain that his tosses are too fast and impossible to hit. Kageyama, the ego monster, blames them for being slow instead. He tells them to match his speed if they want to win. He tosses another insane ball and all his teammates just stand there like decorations at a funeral, watching him flop. A giant crack forms between Kageyama and his team. Their coach, tired of babysitting clowns, benched Kageyama the royal headache. Back to the present. Asahi teases Kageyama again for not tossing like a king. Kageyama, the sulking crybaby, admits he might be wrong. Nada the tiny fool says that was junior high stuff and brags that he can easily smash the king's tosses now. He declares they will crush Asahi and become official members of Karasuno. The match heats up. Ball comes to Kageyama, and he wonders whether to toss to Muscle Tanaka or Shorty Nada. Nata jumps and yells for the ball like an overexcited puppy. Kageyama tosses it, but Nata the fumbling penguin messes it up, causing a foul and giving Asahi another point. Sugawara the nice uncle watches Kageyama's quick decision and feels impressed. He thinks Kageyama showed real setter skills by changing direction so fast. Tanaka the caveman shouts why they never said they could do fast attacks. Both clowns deny knowing anything. Tanaka facepalms and says what they just did was literally a fast attack. Nata turns to Kageyama and says maybe they can pull it off. Kageyama, the moody princess, flatly says it's impossible. Nata looks like he just got slapped. Asahi mocks Nata, telling him he wasn't made for spiking. Nata, the stubborn goldfish, admits maybe that's true, but dreams to become like Little Giant, so he can never quit, no matter how badly he sucks now. Kageyama says breaking through any ball is a setter's job. Then the penguin Kageyama drags Nata aside and gives him a quick tip. He says just jump with all your power and trust me to toss it perfectly. Kageyama tosses the ball for Nata, but Nata, the clumsy kangaroo, misses completely. Kageyama yells at him, but Asahi teases them so hard, Kageyama just shuts up like a scolded kid. Nata, still trying not to cry, approaches Sugawara for advice. Sugawara, being the wise grandma, tells Kageyama he's repeating his junior high mistakes. Sugawara says Nata might suck at everything else, but he has freak speed and jumps, so Kageyama should toss according to Nata's dumb movements, not his own royal standards. Sugawara says he watched Kageyama last year and knows he's super talented, but he needs to actually use that brain of his and see what his team is doing. Kageyama, the reformed tyrant, listens and tells Nata to run and jump with everything he has, go to empty spaces and spike hard without even looking. He says trust me and forget the ball. The ball flies, Kageyama tosses, and Nata hits it with full idiot energy without even looking. It's so fast that Daichi the talking potato yells that Nata just spiked blind. Kageyama, the confused crow, asks, "Why didn't you even look?" Nata shrugs and says, "Because you told me to trust you and jump." Kageyama finally gets the brilliant idea to use Nata's wild speed and jumping power properly. Kageyama tosses again for Nata, but the ball slaps Nata's face like karma. Kageyama laughs, saying this is actually fun, and Nata whines that Kageyama just slapped his face twice with the ball. The match continues. Kageyama tosses again, and this time Nata, the human cannonball, spikes without even blinking. He watches as the ball flies across and smashes down on the enemy side. Another beautiful point for them. Now Kageyama and Nata need only 1 point to win. Sugawara, the old but gold veteran, says Kageyama's every toss is getting better and sharper than before, showing Kageyama is finally evolving from a dumb dictator to a real setter. First up, the fake bodybuilder Tanaka somehow scores like he's carrying the whole team on his non-existent biceps, which lets loudmouth Nata and frozen popsicle Kagamala steal the first set like it was candy from a baby. Then the second set starts, and the human sleeping pill, Suki-sama, and Ghostface Yamaguchi barely grab 2 points, while Kagaya and motormouth Nata already snatch 4 points without even sweating. Somehow these two brain-dead chickens start stacking points like they're building a pyramid. The score creeps up to 11 and 13. And then boom, these two circus clowns pull off a quick attack and grab the second set too, while looking like they just ran a marathon now. Both these overcooked noodles are lying on the floor, half dead. Tanaka, the discount gym rat, sprints over to Daichi, the serious-faced hall monitor, and Sugawara, the grandma babysitter, to ask if they knew these two clowns could pull off such tricks. Sugawara acts like he's innocent and says he just threw some random advice like free samples, and Daichi, the forever stressed principal, says he hoped those two boneheads would cooperate, but even his tiny dreams didn't expect them to pull this miracle. Now Daichi turns to dried leaf Tsukishima and asks if he enjoyed the match, and Tsukishima, who clearly left his soul at home, says he doesn't care because Kagaya is the king of the court and comes from some fancy light school, so no big deal, he lost Daichi. The worried grandpa says he thought Sima was playing serious, but maybe he was just pretending, and hands him a towel like he's patting down a sad puppy. Then Kagaya and Nata, the human foghorn, show up screaming with some club application forms stuck to their sweaty hands. Daichi looks at the paper like it's a foreign language and asks Kuko Shimizu, the silent assassin, if the stuff is ready. Kuko says yes, and brings out a box that even my grandma could lift inside the box. Our shiny uniforms for the Karasuno team. And Nata, the human golden retriever, looks like he's about to cry happy tears. Then the bald eagle Takeda-sensei shows up, dropping bigger news. He says they got a practice match against one of the top 4 teams called Aoba Josai. Takeda, the walking volleyball encyclopedia, says he's heard about the two legendary disasters Kagaya and Nata, and decides to see them in action. Nata, the noisy mosquito, asks Kagaya if Takeda is a teacher, but surprise Kagaya, the cold fish has no clue either. Takeda says he's the volleyball club advisor, but the man has about as much volleyball experience as a rock, so he can't actually help with tactics. Then Takeda drops the bomb. Aoba Josai wants Kagaya to be the setter for the whole match. Tanaka, the dollar store. Rambo gets mad and says it feels like Aoba Josai only wants to play with Kagaya and thinks the rest of Karasuno is trash. Sugawara, the professional peacemaker, says it's fine, they never get chances like this. And anyway, he's still the official setter and wants to see what the two circus acts can pull off Takeda gives. All the match details and the team learns. The match is next week. Nata, the overexcited puppy, gets hyped since it's his first official match with Karasuno in the evening. Everyone is leaving the court, and Kagaya, the ice statue, walks up to Sugawara and says he knows he only got the setter position because of conditions, but he promises to earn it properly. Sugawara, the retired school counselor, didn't expect Kagaya to care about him and feels a tiny tear forming. Kagaya says Sugawara has more experience and more talent, while he still needs to earn trust from teammates. Sugawara is shocked like he just saw a ghost, and quietly thinks that losing to Kagaya back in junior high must have really stabbed him in the chest. Then Tanaka and Nada crash the moment like two drunk uncles. Shugabara tells Kagaya that most of the players in Aoba Josai used to be in Kagaya's old school, and hopes he doesn't get uncomfortable, but Kagaya the Stonehead says nah. If they were on his team, maybe it would feel weird, but now they're enemies, and he's ready to fight Daiichi. The worried single dad shows up and hands out snacks from a nearby shop. Next day, all the misfits are discussing the match positions at the court. Daiichi shows them a vote and assigns everyone their spots after school. Daiichi is heading toward the clubroom when Michimiya, the worried school queen, calls out to him. She says she heard about the match against Aoba Josai and asks if he's scared, because last year they were top 4. Daiichi the Calm Storm says they've got some crazy new first years. Michimiya says yeah, she heard about them, how they joined the club and immediately blew off the vice principal's wig before she can finish. Daiichi grabs her mouth and looks around like he just committed a crime. He says shut up, these crazy first years aren't perfect yet, but if they become perfect, Karasuno will hit a new level later. Everyone heads to the volleyball club room. Nada the happy idiot is seeing it for the first time and looks like he found buried treasure. Shugabara, the forever grumpy mom, says it's just an ordinary room and scolds Nada for acting like he discovered gold. Nada says it's his first time and acts like a kid at Christmas. Tanaka, the human wrecking ball, reminds Nada that tomorrow's match is super important, even if it's just practice, and that everyone is trusting him. Hearing this, Nada, the anxiety magnet, gets super nervous. He's so nervous he wears his jacket on his legs. Tanaka laughs like a maniac, but honestly, Nada is ready to pass out next morning. Everyone hops on the bus for the match. Inside the bus, Tanaka asks Nada if he wants food, but Nada, the walking zombie, looks half dead already. His face is whiter than paper. Tanaka asks him what's wrong, and Nada says he couldn't sleep last night because he was too worried. Nada then runs to the bus window but ends up vomiting all over Tanaka's pants. Tanaka, the human volcano, almost explodes, but everyone just stares in shock because Nada's nerves just took over the whole bus. Karasuno rolls up to Aoba Josai, and guess what? Hinata, the human wrecking ball, immediately apologizes to Tanaka. Tanaka, being his usual charming self, brushes it off, but then cranks up the pressure, making Hinata freak out like a scared hamster. So, of course, Hinata has to sprint off to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Kageyama's looking at him like he's about to break a plate over his head for being such a disaster. Elsewhere, Kindaichi and Yahaba are gossiping like middle school girls about Karasuno, especially Kageyama, who they think is all talk and no teamwork. Kindaichi, who's obviously still salty about losing to Kageyama in the past, doesn't miss a chance to insult the guy. They rag on Tanaka's appearance. Yep, that's a low blow, but Tanaka just pops up behind them like a ghost, and the two nearly poop their pants. Kageyama, Tsukishima, and Yamaguchi roll up to back Tanaka, and Tanaka tells these jokers not to underestimate Karasuno. Tsukishima, the king of insults, throws some shade too, but Daiichi, trying to be the adult, steps in and tells everyone to chill. Kindaichi asks Kageyama what kind of dictatorship he's in now, and Kageyama just gives him the silent treatment. Ouch. Finally, the teams head to the gym, and Hinata's already losing his mind at how good Aoba Josai looks. Tanaka tries to give him a pep talk, but surprise, surprise, it only makes things worse, and Hinata runs off to the bathroom again. This is the third time today, people. What is this, a bathroom break episode? Meanwhile, Kindaichi and Hinata have a little heart-to-heart about Kageyama's toss, with Kindaichi badmouthing it like it's his job. He says that Kageyama's toss is garbage, and implies that Hinata's never spiked one in a real match. Hinata, the little firecracker that he is, shuts Kindaichi down and says, Kageyama's toss is incredible. Kindaichi's confused but presses on, trying to convince Hinata that Kageyama is just a selfish jerk who will dump anyone who's in his way. Then, in classic Tanaka fashion, he jumps in and laughs at Kindaichi, calling him out. But before Hinata can get any backup, he's back to hiding in the bathroom, like some kind of bathroom enthusiast. Back in the gym, Daiichi tries to get through to Hinata, but fails miserably. He calls in Kyoko for help, but of course, she somehow makes it worse. Just when you think things can't get worse, the match starts. And surprise, surprise, Hinata screws up immediately. He messes up Daiichi's receive, and Aoba Josai scores. That's some top-tier first-year stuff right there. Hinata's having a full-on breakdown, and Kageyama's yelling at him like the angry, unapproachable god he is. Kindaichi and Kunami are side-eyeing them like they're watching a train wreck in slow motion. When it's finally Hinata's turn to serve, guess what he does? He serves the ball straight into Kageyama's head. Smooth Hinata. Real smooth. Kageyama's not having it. and he starts questioning Hinata's anxiety like he's some sort of psychologist. He slaps his own head to make his point, which, to be honest, is pretty funny. Hinata backs off like he's about to get punished, but Kageyama just tells him to focus and walks away. Classic Kageyama move. Acts like a jerk, but doesn't actually punish you. After that little scare, Hinata somehow gets his act together and starts playing like he's actually on a team for once. Tanaka, being the hype man he is, screams at Hinata to stop messing up and rely on his teammates. Hinata, inspired by Tanaka's motivational speech, stops being a nervous wreck and plays like someone who doesn't live in a bathroom. The match kicks back into gear and Kageyama tries his quick set with Hinata. First attempt, total fail. Kindaichi's sitting there laughing at them, but when they try it again, boom, it works. Hinata finally connects with Kageyama's toss. The team huddles up for a cheer and Hinata's all like, "I feel like I'm really on a team now," which is a nice change from him acting like a lone wolf. They're not done yet though. Hinata and Tanaka rush forward for a spike, but Kageyama, being the sneaky genius he is, uses Hinata as a decoy so Tanaka can score. "Oh, Kageyama, you sly dog." During a quick break, Daichi notices Hinata staring at his hand like it's some sort of mystical object. Hinata admits he's never really been on a team before, but now that he's surrounded by people who are way better than him, all he has to do is trust them and play. Meanwhile, Kindaichi's still stuck on figuring out Kageyama's behavior, and Coach Irihata drops a truth bomb. Hinata wasn't even looking at the ball when he spiked it, which means Kageyama has actually changed. Irihata even wonders if Kageyama would have helped Aoba Josai if he'd chosen them over Karasuno, but nah. Kageyama's with Karasuno for life. In a final act of teamwork, Kageyama and Tsukishima block Iwaizumi's spike. Kageyama and Tsukishima actually working together like functional humans. Coach Irihata can't believe how strong Karasuno is, and frankly, neither can anyone else. Karasuno just stole the second set like a bunch of hungry dogs, and boom, here comes Oikawa, Aoba Josai's loudmouth captain with a broken knee and an ego fatter than Tanaka's head. The guy shows up like some glittery anime prince fresh from injury, thinking the world paused for his dramatic return. Coach Irihata wastes no time scolding him like a toddler who just dropped his lunch, reminding him he's the idiot who begged for this practice match. Basically a one-man tantrum just to face Kageyama. Then, like a celebrity with a fan club he doesn't deserve, Oikawa starts waving at his personal cheerleaders. These two balcony clowns scream like he's a pop star, while Tanaka nearly chokes on the cringe. Kageyama explains that Oikawa used to be his upperclassman, a solid player with the personality of a clogged toilet. Hinata takes one look and calls him the Great King, probably because Drama Queen was too polite. Irihata tells Oikawa to warm up properly, because apparently, jumping in cold like a lunatic with glitter in his brain is normal for this guy. While he stretches his fragile knees, Karasuno starts tearing through the points and gets to 24-21. But just when they think it's over, Oikawa swaps in as server and immediately targets Karasuno's two worst receivers, String Bean Tsukishima and Human Grasshopper Hinata. This petty genius serves directly at Tsukishima's scared little soul and scores 2 points like it's nothing. Sugawara can't believe it. Oikawa's serve has both fire and precision, unlike Kageyama's raw cannonball chaos. Oikawa watches Hinata and Kageyama pull off their freaky quick combo and grins like a villain in a shampoo commercial. The game's tight. One more point and Aoba Josai catches up. Hinata starts screaming for the ball like a lunatic, trying to bait Oikawa into serving at him. Tsukishima wants none of it and tells him to shut up. Hinata drops a volleyball cliche about teammates being allies, annoying Tsukishima like he's listening to a toddler talk about taxes. Daichi finally steps in and moves people around like chess pieces, trying to block Oikawa's serve. Oikawa's accuracy is sharp, but he loses some power, and Tsukishima manages to not screw up for once. It turns into a chance ball, but when Kindaichi tries to spike it, Hinata blocks him like a man possessed. Then he zooms across the court, Kageyama sets, and Hinata spikes it straight past Oikawa's smug face. Karasuno wins. Oikawa eats that loss with a forced smile, like someone pretending they didn't just trip on live TV. Takeda, the clueless but lovable advisor, gives a speech like he just witnessed Aliens land. He can't explain it, but he knows Karasuno is becoming a monster. He fumbles the names, but Daichi says it's fine. Honestly, everyone's too tired to care. Meanwhile, Kindaichi and Kageyama bump into each other in the bathroom like rivals in a soap opera. Kindaichi stops Kageyama before he can apologize and declares he still thinks Kageyama is a controlling jerk, but he promises to win next time. Kageyama claps back, saying Karasuno will just win again. Then Hinata barges in like a clown, interrupting their awkward bathroom drama. Kunimi shows up too, finding Kindaichi sulking over Kageyama, finally realizing he's got teammates now. Outside, Oikawa waits like a bad ex. As Karasuno's leaving, Daiichi admits they'd probably get clobbered in a real match. Oikawa agrees like a smug GPS system. He gives props to Hinata's spike but tears into Karasuno's pathetic receives. He brags that he's not even the only server on his team who can wreck them. Before leaving, he tells them to make it to Inter High so he can destroy Kageyama officially. Kageyama brushes it off, but Daiichi laughs it off too, knowing Oikawa's right. Karasuno's receive game is a steaming mess, and it won't fix itself overnight, but Daiichi hints that Karasuno's real defensive beast is coming back soon. Back at Aoba Josai, Oikawa and Iwaizumi are cleaning like two tired dads. They admit Kageyama's grown into a scary beast. Oikawa for once drops the drama and admits no one in the prefecture can toss like Kageyama, but if Karasuno's receivers stay trash, it doesn't matter. They'll never get the ball to him anyway. At Karasuno's gym, the boys finish up their meeting. Daiichi and Takeda have a little side chat. Daiichi knows they need help, real coaching. Takeda already figured that out and says he's chasing down a coach with a past. He promises to make it happen, and Daiichi trusts him. Meanwhile, Yamaguchi finds a broken mop and asks if they should trash it. Sugawara jumps in like the mop is sacred. Daiichi watches like a tired dad watching kids argue over nothing. Later, the boys stop by the Sakanoshita shop to get meat buns, but the soccer team already snatched them all. These volleyball gremlins nearly cry, but the shopkeeper pities them and tosses them some gun bars, yelling at them to eat something real. As they leave like happy orphans, the shopkeeper picks up a phone call and immediately regrets being alive. Tanaka asks Kageyama why he ended up in Karasuno instead of the monster school Shira Torizawa. Turns out, Kageyama got 0 offers and flunked their exam. So he crawled into Karasuno because he heard an old volleyball coach was coming back. Coach Ukai never showed, but Kageyama stayed. He figured crushing other schools is fun, no matter where he is. Then they talk about how close the match was. Kageyama points out the truth. Karasuno has no libero and no ace. Hinata remembers the whispers about Karasuno's guardian deity and gets hyped to meet him. Next day, Kageyama is in the gym playing serve and hit with himself like a bored psychopath. He sends one flying toward a water bottle, but Hinata shows up like a ghost, dives, and smacks it up to the balcony like a feral child. While he goes to get it, Kageyama serves again. Suddenly, someone enters the gym and receives the serve like it's nothing. Stops the spin. Dead center. Absolute precision. This mystery man casually grabs his jacket, and Hinata realizes something insane. He's taller than this guy. The so-called guardian deity just arrived, and he didn't even need to speak. His receive said everything. Kageyama just witnessed the most disrespectful thing ever. Some random short guy walked into the gym and received his god-tier serve like it was a light breeze. Kageyama froze, not because he was impressed. Because he had no clue who the hell this goblin was. But of course, Hinata, the loud idiot he is, ran straight to the guy and yelled the worst thing you can say to a short king. He told him he was shorter than him. The angry short guy exploded immediately. But before he could suplex Hinata for that insult, the rest of the team arrived. Tanaka and the seniors walked in, and guess what? The gremlin had a name. Yu Nishinoya, aka the walking headache, aka the libero with too much caffeine in his blood. Now Nishinoya didn't join Karasuno because he loved the sport. Nah. This clown said he came because the girls' uniforms looked hot, and the guys wore black coats. A real scholar. And the moment Kyoko walked in, this gremlin sprinted at her like a dog chasing meat. She slapped him straight to the floor and he came crawling back like nothing happened. Then he asked where Asahi was. Asahi? Ghosted. Vanished. And Nishinoya? The idiot started screaming that if Asahi wasn't coming back, then he wasn't either. Real emotional support type of guy. Total diva move. Flashback time. Nishinoya once stood on the court begging the team's ace to give him another shot. His whole thing was that the spikers ruled the sky, but he was the demon of the dirt. His job? Keep that ball up at all costs. This gremlin really thinks he's holding the team's soul with his forearms, back to present. Hinata, finally using his brain, asked if Nishinoya was a libero. The gremlin shot him a death glare like he was about to suplex him, but Hinata explained himself, saying he sucked at receiving and needed help. And guess what? The moment Hinata called him senpai, the clown melted. Ego boosted. He agreed instantly. Now they hit the gym. Nishinoya tried to teach Hinata and Tsukishima how to receive, but his explanation was more confusing than Kageyama's emotions. Neither of the two understood a damn thing. Then Hinata asked who Asahi was, and the gremlin dropped a bomb. Asahi was supposed to be their ace. Hinata, who thinks he's the next volleyball god, said he wanted to be ace. Shockingly, Nishinoya didn't laugh in his face. Instead, he backed him up, but then launched into a speech about how people think the ace is cool, but in reality, the libero is the one who saves the game. Not because he's short, but because he wants to control the game. He said that while looking like a crazed squirrel on a sugar high. Hinata admitted he was just a decoy, looking like a kicked puppy. Even though Nishinoya hyped him up, he still looked depressed. On the sidelines, Sugawara watched this circus and whispered to himself that Hinata and Kageyama could now land spikes that never worked before. Finally, some compliments that didn't sound like an accident. Meanwhile, Takeda was on a side quest. He pulled up on Keishin Ukai, the grumpy grandson of the original coach Ukai. Takeda begged this tired noodlehead to coach the team. Ukai? Absolutely not. Said he didn't care and only got asked because of his last name. Takeda said yeah, and then dumped the team's whole sob story on him. Still, Ukai refused. Takeda left, but like the annoying NPC he is, promised to be back. He said once Ukai saw the team, he'd understand. Next day, Sugawara approached the lost legend himself, Asahi, the big sad man, the fake ace, the one who ran away after a block bruised his pride. Sugawara tried to bring him back, but Asahi kept crying about being useless. Before Shuga could finish his speech, Asahi got called out of class, but surprise, standing right outside were Hinata and Kageyama. No words needed, just silent pressure. Back in the office, Takeda was clutching a piece of paper like he just won the lottery. Boom. Practice match confirmed. Training camp was happening. Later, Asahi finally met Hinata and Kageyama properly. He smiled and told them to do their best. Hinata, not having any of that, asked him if he'd play too. The clown wanted to see a real ace. Asahi backed off immediately, said he wasn't an ace anymore, and dipped. Kageyama, the emotional rock he is, thought Asahi was injured. Sugawara corrected him. Nah, Asahi just hated volleyball now. One block ended his career, weak knees and even weaker ego. Back at the gym, Takeda dropped the news. Golden Week training camp was on, and at the end, a practice match against Nakoma, Karasuno's rival. Daiichi almost choked. Nakoma hadn't accepted a match in forever. Takeda said he only arranged it to catch someone's attention, but then Nishinoya stood up and ruined the mood. Said he wouldn't play, not because he was injured. Nah, the clown didn't want the team to win without Asahi. He said if they won, Asahi would feel useless. Bro made it about himself and called it loyalty. Daiichi told him to at least come to camp and stop being dramatic. After practice, Hinata asked if the team really wanted Asahi back. Kageyama, still acting like a therapist, said Asahi just wanted to win the game alone, and that's why he broke. Hinata, without missing a beat, called it stupid, said he hated when the team wasn't united. Hinata might be a loud moron, but at least he gets it. Next day, Hinata and Kageyama cornered Asahi again. He asked why they cared. They didn't even know him. Hinata said the upperclassmen were sad without him. Still, the emo ace wasn't moved. He said he couldn't imagine getting past blockers anymore. Hinata told him his own sob story, but said with Kageyama tossing now, he could spike past anything. He described the feeling of the ball hitting his hand, and Asahi started to remember. The glory, the spikes, the power. Hinata then roasted him with a fact. Asahi had scored more points than he lost. That's why he's still the ace. Asahi's brain started spinning. Kageyama threw in a final jab. Volleyball isn't a solo game, dummy. On their way home, Asahi made a turn. He walked back to the gym, drawn by nostalgia or maybe guilt. And there he saw it. Kageyama tossing the perfect ball to Hinata, who jumped like a missile and slammed it down. Asahi stared at his own hand, remembering the exact feeling. His fingers itched. His blood boiled. The court was calling. And this time, the ace might just answer. Asahi is at Karasuno's gym, standing there like a confused chicken, watching over-caffeinated Hinata and bossy Kageyama practice. This giant lost puppy looks at his hand like it holds the secrets of volleyball. Hinata, that tiny orange alarm clock, suddenly screams that with their quick attack, they are going to beat Nakoma using Asahi as their secret weapon. Then Daiichi the bald dictator sneaks up behind Asahi and spooks him so hard the poor guy almost runs for the hills. Daiichi, who thinks he owns everyone's soul, tells Asahi to show up for the Nakoma match because it is a rare chance, but Asahi, the human rain cloud, whines about losing face with Sugawara and Nishinoya. Daichi, being the professional bully he is, mocks Asahi for being such a softie and leaves. Even though Daichi acts like a strict old man, he admits inside that if Asahi still loves volleyball, that is enough reason to return to the club. Meanwhile, at Sakanoshita Market, Ukai, the grumpy retired legend, gets ambushed by Takeda again. Poor Ukai is busy running his little snack shop when this desperate teacher shows up, waving the coaching flag again. Ukai groans like an old man with back pain and says he does not want to return to the gym because it brings back memories that are too sweet and painful. Takeda, who clearly does not understand how to take a hint, brings up the match against Nakoma and drops the bomb that their coach might be someone Ukai knows. Suddenly Ukai, the lazy lion, wakes up and agrees to help. But before heading over, he makes a phone call to some mystery person, because of course, drama is important. Back at Karasuno's dusty gym, the players are stretching like dying noodles when Takeda walks in with Ukai, looking like a proud dad showing off his pet dog. Ukai, with the enthusiasm of a bored cat, announces that he will only coach them until the Nakoma practice match is over. After tossing his half-hearted intro, he tells the team to get ready for a practice match against the Karasuno Neighborhood Association team, basically a bunch of old guys with sore backs. Somewhere else, Asahi, the brooding anime protagonist wannabe, is sitting alone on the grass thinking about Daichi's mean words. He finally grows half a spine and gets up, ready to do something with his miserable life. The Karasuno Neighborhood Association arrives at the gym looking like a squad of tired uncles. They are ready to throw hands. Nishinoya, the volleyball goblin, refuses to play without Asahi at first, but finally gives in, because, without him, they have no libero, and would basically be a walking disaster. As Nishinoya drags himself to his position like a prisoner, Hinata, that loud carrot, screams out Asahi's name. Poor Asahi, who wanted to sneak away quietly, gets caught and pulled into the gym by Ukai like a shoplifter caught stealing candy. Now that Asahi is back, the team acts like kids on Sugar Rush. Everyone scrambles into their positions. Ukai announces that one setter needs to betray them and join the association team. Sugawara, the sweetest backstabber ever, volunteers. Kageyama, the king of tantrums, tells him not to step down. Sugawara, being a secret savage, says he felt relieved when Kageyama joined because it meant he could avoid competing like a real coward. Every time Sugawara tossed, his poor spikers got blocked, and he got so traumatized that he became scared to toss at all. Now, Sugawara just wants one more chance to toss to his beloved ace Asahi. The match starts, and Takinoue, one of the neighborhood fossils, scores right away thanks to Sugawara's toss. Sugawara turns to Nishinoya and basically tells him to wake up and play properly, so they do not have to pray to Asahi every single time. Asahi watches this and thinks about how Sugawara has grown into a dependable potato, while he himself is still the same scaredy cat, flipping between quitting and staying like a broken ceiling fan. Deep down though, Asahi admits he really does love being on this team of maniacs. Hinata and Kageyama suddenly pull off a quick attack so sharp it makes everyone's brains explode. Asahi gets thrown back into memory lane. He remembers Hinata's annoying speeches about getting past blockers. He remembers his own personal hell against Date Tech, where he got blocked so hard he basically retired on the spot. During that match, Asahi, the future ghost of Karasuno, gave up on calling tosses. Later at the gym, Nishinoya, the angry volleyball fairy, blamed himself, but Asahi flipped out and screamed that it was all his fault. When Nishinoya asked about the final point where Asahi chickened out and never called for a spike, Asahi admitted he was too broken to even try. Nishinoya, short but deadly, grabbed Asahi like a ragdoll and yelled at him to not give up until he had tried properly. Nishinoya, who cannot score because he is tiny and trapped in the libero role, confessed he had to trust giants like Asahi to land the points. He said he did not care if Asahi kept getting blocked into oblivion, but he could not forgive Asahi if he gave up like a weakling. Asahi stormed off, throwing his pride into the trash. The next day, Nishinoya, who cannot mind his business to save his life, ran up to Asahi between classes. Asahi lied like a guilty kindergartner, saying he lost interest in volleyball and would only drag them down. Nishinoya, living proof that good things come in angry packages, kept yelling at him, which obviously caught the vice principal's unwanted attention. When the vice principal tried to stop him, Nishinoya, in true goblin style, shoved the man into a vase like it was a WWE match. Now back in the gym, reality smacking him hard, Asahi tells Nishinoya that he still wants to try even if he gets blocked a million times. A toss comes flying to Asahi and he smashes it straight into the hands of Kageyama, Tsukishima, and Tanaka, the dumbest wall ever built. Despite their combined stupidity, they manage to block him, but Kageyama gets pushed back like a paper bag in a hurricane. The ball falls down, but the volleyball gremlin Nishinoya saves it like the beast he is. Sugawara, stuck in decision paralysis, looks around before Kageyama yells at him to keep trusting Asahi. But Asahi, who has finally woken up, does not wait anymore. Asahi, who had been whining for 10 episodes straight, finally thinks about his teammates' struggles to bring him back. He finally realizes he is the ace, the hammer of Karasuno. He calls for a toss, standing tall like a hero in an old anime. Sugawara, blessed with finally finding his courage, tosses it perfectly. Asahi charges forward, powered by friendship, regret, and pure stubbornness, and spikes the ball so hard that Kageyama, Tsukishima, and Tanaka look like bowling pins flying everywhere. Asahi, the anxious caveman of Karasuno, slams the ball past Kageyama, Tsukishima, and Tanaka like a man finally growing a spine. The bunch of clueless first years and poor Takeda, who always looks like he wandered into the wrong building, watch with their mouths hanging open. Sugawara, the old grandpa setter with a heart too soft for this world, praises Nishinoya and Asahi like they just cured cancer. Asahi, the big baby, blushes and throws back the compliment, making him and Nishinoya grin like idiots. Hinata, the human orange ping-pong ball, stares at Asahi, thinking that this must be what a real ace looks like. Kageyama, the cranky genius with zero people skills, barks at Hinata not to freak out. Hinata, who has a brain made of marshmallows, waves him off and says it's their time to shine. Off to the side, Takeda, the overly excited hamster man, starts yapping about how unbeatable Karasuno will be with Nishinoya's saves. Ukai, the blonde hobo coach who looks like he sells fish on the side, smacks him down to reality. He says saves like that do not rain from the sky, especially with this bunch of clowns. Ukai stares at the team like he is witnessing a dumpster fire, noticing that their receiving skills suck harder than a broken vacuum. He watches Kageyama prepare a toss, wondering who the heck is worthy of being the real setter. Kageyama, the angriest toddler alive, gets the ball and lobs it to Hinata. The human pogo stick rockets up and slams it down before anyone can even blink. Asahi, still recovering from the shock that someone smaller than his shadow could pull that off, thinks back to Hinata's weird claims about Kageyama helping him beat blockers. Turns out the little guy was not lying for once. Ukai watches them like a confused old man who just discovered TikTok. He yells at Hinata, scaring the life out of the poor shrimp. Hinata says something dumb about always jumping and trusting Kageyama to send the ball. Ukai tries to make sense of it, but gives up, deciding Kageyama must just be some cursed genius. He thinks the mix of Kageyama's smart plays and Sugawara's grandpa wisdom is not half bad. Hinata, who clearly has no survival instincts, gets put in front of Asahi. Asahi spikes, and Hinata actually jumps so high he could punch a cloud. The ball still goes over, but even Asahi, the human anxiety ball, admits that Hinata's jump is insane. Hinata stares at Asahi, dreaming about being just like him, while Kageyama looks like he is trying to hold in a sarcastic comment. They get back to the match, and Hinata, the little airhead, starts daydreaming about Asahi's muscles and forgets to focus. Asahi, not missing a chance, spikes the ball right into Hinata's clueless face. Hinata drops like a sack of potatoes. Everyone rushes over while Asahi and Takeda lose their minds. Hinata sits up trying to act tough, but he freezes when he sees Kageyama's murder face. Kageyama screams at Hinata for daydreaming like a brain-dead goldfish. Hinata tries to deny it, but the guilt is all over his dumb face. Kageyama snaps that Hinata is jealous. Hinata, with the emotional range of a toddler, yells that Kageyama would never get it. Kageyama ignores the drama and demands they keep playing. Kageyama, feeling extra spicy, announces that he is tossing to Hinata next, shocking everyone, even the players who have no idea what is happening half the time. Kageyama tells Hinata that he is too clumsy right now to be an ace, but, thanks to Kageyama's god-tier tosses, Hinata can still be the strongest on the court. He reminds Hinata that with him setting, Hinata has never been blocked, which is true because Kageyama is basically carrying the whole partnership on his back. Hinata thinks about it, finally letting his two brain cells connect. Kageyama tosses and Hinata dashes like a wild squirrel. He fakes to one side, making the blockers jump like fools, then switches sides and slams the ball home. Hinata, running on pure dumb determination, proves that even if he is not Asahi, he has his own brand of awesome thanks to Kageyama. Kageyama, for once not being a total jerk, tells Hinata that scoring is what matters, no matter the role. He asks Hinata if being a decoy still feels lame. Hinata, glowing like an idiot, yells that it does not. Now that Karasuno is finally not embarrassing itself, the neighborhood association team gets serious. Shimada, the middle-aged uncle who probably drinks beer for breakfast, fires a nasty jump float serve. Karasuno falls into chaos like a bunch of headless chickens. The association grabs 4 points in a row before Daiichi, the exhausted team dad, finally saves the day with a good receive. The ball goes to Asahi, who smashes it down and wins the match for the old men. After dragging their tired bodies through cleaning, Ukai gathers the sweaty mess of a team. He points out that their receives are still garbage and they need to stop sucking if they want to beat real teams. He orders practice for tomorrow, probably planning to torture them even harder. He finally lets them go before his brain melts from secondhand stupidity. Hinata, still buzzing like an overexcited puppy, runs to Asahi. He says he will build the path for Asahi and become the strongest decoy ever. Asahi, the awkward teddy bear, tells Hinata that the coolest players are the ones enemies fear the most, no matter their position. Hinata nods like he just heard the secrets of the universe. Asahi, still acting like a shy grandma, stammers that he wants to do his best if they will take him back. Sugawara, the team's cheerful old lady, laughs his butt off. Daiichi, king of dad jokes, says they finally got their libero and ace back. The team piles together in a huddle, all grinning like goofs, ready to take on the next challenge even if they are all one bad serve away from disaster. This is the real Karasuno, a messy, noisy, stubborn, and totally lovable disaster squad. And somehow, they are only getting started. Hinata, the little jumping bean, checks his calendar like an excited puppy and almost explodes when he sees there are only 4 days left until the match against Nakoma High. This tiny clown actually believes Karasuno is going to play like champions now that they have their lost ace and midget libero back. Later, the crusty old coach Ukai gathers all the Karasuno zombies and yells about how little time is left before Inter-High. He barks at them to keep practicing like their lives depend on it. The team starts their usual boring drills while old man Sugawara looks like he's hiding a secret in his wrinkled forehead. After dragging their sweaty bodies around, Karasuno heads over to the rundown building they call a training camp. Hinata runs around like a headless chicken checking out the rooms, acting like he's entered a 5-star hotel. Tsukishima the giraffe ruins the mood with his emo attitude, telling Hinata there's nothing to get excited about. Meanwhile, Tanaka and Nishinoya, the 2 professional idiots, hype themselves up thinking they'll get to stay with Goddess Kyoko. But their dreams get shattered when Grandpa Sugawara breaks it to them that Kyoko is staying at her own home, far away from these desperate clowns. After stuffing their faces like pigs at dinner, Tanaka finds Hinata standing alone in the hallway, looking like he just saw a ghost. Tanaka tries acting cool, saying the bath is open, but Hinata nervously squeals about seeing a stranger kid wandering around. Tanaka puffs his chest and tells Hinata he probably just saw his own ugly reflection. But when Hinata mentions the stranger is a child, even Tanaka's tiny brain starts doubting himself. Just as these 2 geniuses try convincing themselves everything's fine, the so-called child appears behind them, scaring the soul out of their bodies. It turns out the child is just Nishinoya with his hair down, looking like a soggy mop. Tanaka, the fake tough guy, scolds Hinata, but Hinata, still scared, points out that Nishinoya looks like he shrank. Tanaka immediately starts bullying Nishinoya, laughing at how the little goblin spikes his hair just to look taller. Nishinoya, mad as ever, screeches at Tanaka to stop roasting him. Right when chaos starts, the human disaster Asahi shows up with his hair down, looking like he crawled out of a horror movie. The light behind him makes him even scarier, and all 3 scream like babies. Asahi, the gentle giant, tries explaining, but it's useless because here comes angry Daiichi ready to yell at these fools for waking up the building. Next day, after some more practice on receiving, the team gets sent on a run. Ukai and Mr. Weak Voice Takeda stay back and talk about how much Hinata and Kageyama are working their butts off. Ukai, looking like he aged 10 more years, says Hinata's stamina is insane, probably from biking through mountains like some wild goat. Takeda notices Ukai's worried look and asks if he's still crying inside about picking the official setter. Ukai admits it, comparing Kageyama's freakish talent to Sugawara's warm blanket of experience. He talks about how he got replaced when he was a 3rd year too, but says he can't cry about feelings now. As a coach, he has to pick the best weapon for the battlefield. Meanwhile, Hinata and Kageyama, the dynamic duo of chaos, start racing each other. Hinata, the ADHD squirrel, runs too fast and gets himself lost. While wandering like a lost tourist, Hinata spots a dude in a red jersey sitting by the road. Curious and dumb as ever, Hinata walks up to the guy, who looks like he'd rather die than talk to anyone. It's Kenma Kozume, the human house cat. Hinata notices Kenma's volleyball shoes and excitedly tells him he's a volleyball player too. Kenma, in true dead fish fashion, says he doesn't really care about volleyball, but just plays because of his friends. Hinata, not the brightest star in the sky, tells Kenma he's a middle blocker even though he's short. Shockingly, Kenma gets it. He says people always wonder why a noodle like him is a setter. Hinata gets all excited asking about Kenma's team, but Kenma's teammates show up before he can answer. Kenma mumbles that they'll see each other later and walks off like he has better things to do, confusing Hinata's two remaining brain cells. Sugawara, everyone's favorite grandpa, finds Hinata and drags him back. On the way, Sugawara praises Hinata for being a hyperactive workhorse. Hinata babbles about wanting to be strong enough to stand on the court by himself without needing Kageyama's magic hands. Sugawara smiles and says he understands, but of course, Hinata's goldfish memory doesn't get the deeper meaning. Somewhere else, random spectators watch Nakoma play. They diss Kenma for looking like a lost child on the court. Kuru, the walking disaster of Nakoma, shows up from behind them and proudly defends Kenma, saying he's Nakoma's spine, heart, and brain. Basically, if Kenma quits, Nakoma falls apart like a cheap chair. Back at the Karasuno dump, Sugawara approaches Ukai for a serious talk. He explains that all the third years want the team to go as far as possible before they vanish. He says if Kageyama is the better bet, then he should be the starting setter. Sugawara, the real MVP, says he'll stay ready as backup if anything happens to that royal brat Kageyama. Ukai is surprised by how mature and selfless Sugawara is, a rare sight among these clowns, and promises to let Sugawara play as much as possible. Little do they know, Daichi and Asahi, the two sneaky old men, are eavesdropping like nosy grandmas. Daichi, the big boss, quietly says they are going to win everything, and Asahi, the gentle crybaby, nods with determination, like he just decided not to cry during a horror movie. Meanwhile, Kinoshita, Enoshita, and Narita, the three professional background characters, are somewhere probably still dreaming of being useful one day. This is the chaos and madness of Karasuno, a team full of midgets, wannabes, has-beens, crybabies, and loudmouths, all somehow working together and slowly becoming stronger. Even with their mess, their shouting, their constant mistakes, they have something real. Maybe, just maybe, they might make something out of this disaster. The next day, Ukai announces the starting order for the match against Nakoma, with Kageyama as the setter. Afterward, Nishinoya goes to Asahi and mentions Enoshita and Sugawara not having a place in the lineup. Enoshita quickly responds that he is not upset about not being a regular anymore and that he did quit once, surprising Hinata and Kageyama. Later that night, Hinata asks Enoshita about what he meant when he said he had run away. He, Narita, and Kinoshita reveal that they had been playing volleyball for fun, and when the former Ukai returned last year, there were many, including them, who couldn't handle the training and had quit because now the goal was all about winning matches. However, they realized that they wanted to keep playing and return to the team, but Ukai had already left by then because of his health. Despite that, they want to do their best in order to stand with everyone else on the court. The next day, Kyoko arrives at the gym with the team uniforms. Hinata receives the number 10, but gets annoyed when he realizes Kageyama's number, 9, is one number higher than his. Daichi then reminds him about the small giant wearing the number 10 as well, causing Hinata to believe this is a sign that he is meant to become like the small giant, despite Kageyama saying it's just a coincidence. As practice continues, Takeda asks Ukai what he knows about Nakoma. Although he is not familiar with what the current time is like, Ukai replies that Nakoma is a team with no outstanding power, but strong defense, the opposite of Karasuno. This match could be a tricky one for the team. That night, at Nakoma's dorm, Takatora bets a yakisoba bread that Karasuno doesn't have a female manager, while Inuoka and Shibayama disagree. Fired up by this possibility, Takatora opens the window and shouts outside that Karasuno will be sorry if they do have a female manager. After Kuru yells at him to stop his antics, Takatora asks Kenma for his opinion. Kenma doesn't care about the managers, but to everyone's surprise, he admits that he's looking forward to the match. Karasuno and Nakoma line up. Elsewhere, Hinata thinks of the small giant while staring at his uniform. He compares himself to Sugawara and the 3 second years who weren't picked to be on the starting lineup, noting sternly that he can only play because of Kageyama's toss. The next day, the practice match begins. Karasuno and Nakoma line up in front of each other. 5 years ago, 2 old grandpas, Coach Ike Ukai and Coach Yasufumi Nekomata, faced each other in a dusty gym, probably both smelling like mothballs. Ike, with his wrinkled brain, promised they would meet again at Nationals. But Karasuno and Nakoma, being the disasters they are, both got kicked out at Inter-High. A year later, these clowns somehow made it to nationals, but Karasuno got slapped out in the third round, and Nakoma dragged their sorry faces to the quarterfinals before choking. They never got to play each other officially because they were too busy losing. After that, both teams started rotting away and the coaches retired, probably to complain about kids these days. Now in the present, the current Nakoma and Karasuno teams finally meet like it's some big superhero crossover, but it's just a bunch of dorks in jerseys. Hinata, the human orange traffic cone, recognizes Kenma instantly and starts crying about how Kenma didn't tell him who he was. Kenma, looking half asleep as usual, dodges the question like a slippery cat. Before Hinata can cry more, Yamamoto, the loudest caveman in Nakoma, appears behind Kenma and tries to scare Hinata. As Hinata steps back like a scared rabbit, Tanaka, Karasuno's resident meathead, pops up and tries to protect him, acting like he's ready to start a fight. Sugawara, the fake nice guy, scolds Tanaka for acting like a moron and calls him embarrassing. Across the way, Yaku, the angry garden gnome of Nakoma, yells at Yamamoto for being a hot-headed idiot, telling him he's just making a clown of himself. Both second-year gremlins sulk like whipped dogs while the two grandpa third years apologize to each other. Out of nowhere, Yamamoto screeches because he sees Kyoko, the only person in this show with dignity. Yamamoto, the brave wannabe tough guy, instantly turns into a blushing toddler and runs away. Meanwhile, Shibayama and Inuoka celebrate because they bet on Yamamoto chickening out first. Hinata watches all this stupidity unfold, while Kageyama, the human rock with legs, asks how he knows Kenma. Hinata, still somehow proud, explains their earlier encounter and reveals that Kenma's a setter, which makes Kageyama light up like a kid on Christmas morning. The players finally enter the gym. Daiichi, Karasuno's grumpy old dad, and Kuru, Nakoma's walking smirk, shake hands while giving each other fake smiles. Both immediately know they're dealing with other sneaky snakes. Somewhere else in the gym, Ukai, now a younger and slightly less grumpy version of the original coach, greets Naoi after 8 long years of whatever miserable life he lived. Takeda, Karasuno's happy idiot, thanks Nekomata for showing up, like he's meeting a celebrity or something. Daiichi gives Karasuno another one of his boring speeches, reminding them they're still a broken mess. Meanwhile, Kuru makes his team chant some cringy motto that makes Kenma want to curl up and die from secondhand embarrassment, but the rest of Nakoma yells that it gets them hyped like caffeine addicts. Before the match starts, Inuoka, the giant happy puppy of Nakoma, notices how short Hinata is and makes a dumb comment. Hinata, the angry little nugget, screams at him not to underestimate him. Inuoka, with the personality of Sunshine, smiles and says he isn't underestimating him. Kageyama watches the whole mess and wishes Inuoka would just insult Hinata a little so he could feel better. Kenma calls out to Hinata and explains that Nakoma is strong because they work together, not because of just one idiot. Hinata, with a brain smaller than a peanut, obviously doesn't understand. Kenma serves first. Asahi, Karasuno's discount Jesus, receives the ball like he's never touched a volleyball before. Nishinoya, the raging ball of energy, screams at him like a furious chihuahua. Then the legendary mess happens. Kageyama and Hinata pull off their freak quick attack, and Nakoma stands there looking like stunned pigeons. Nekomata, ancient and confused, wonders how Hinata can spike with his eyes closed. Meanwhile, Takeda and Ukai are grinning like they just robbed a bank. Kenma, the human sloth, compliments Hinata, but his brain is already working overtime, trying to figure out how to destroy that quick attack. Karasuno keeps smashing points because the Nakoma players are too busy watching Hinata instead of defending properly. Nekomata calls a timeout because his team is getting dunked on. He explains that Karasuno has strong players, but the main danger is the crazy setter, Kageyama. However, Kageyama's freak tosses only work with Hinata, the flying tangerine. Kenma figures out that if they stop Hinata, Kageyama's quick attacks fall apart. When the match resumes, Kageyama notices that Inuoka is starting to touch Hinata's spikes. It's like Nakoma's plan has "Destroy Hinata" written all over it. They set a nasty trap, making Hinata think he's free on one side, only for Inuoka to chase him down like a hunter after a baby deer. Kenma then tosses the ball over the net with a sneaky dump, shocking Karasuno's brain-dead defense. In the next rally, Kageyama, not wanting to be outdone, smashes a spike that even scares Tanaka, Asahi, and Sugawara because apparently this first-year monster is good at everything. Tsukishima, the human stick of sarcasm, manages to score with a sneaky feint, proving he has more brain cells than most people thought. Kenma, sitting on the other side with his zombie eyes, notices that Tsukishima is sneaky and smart too. Kenma tricks Tsukishima by glancing away during a toss, making the giant blonde dummy move the wrong way. Nekoma scores, and Kageyama glares at Kenma like he just found out he has a rival smarter than him. Flashback time. Little zombie Kenma explains that he hated talking to people because they're annoying, but he still cared way too much about what they thought. His only friend was Kuru, the evil-looking cat with messy hair, who dragged him out of his cave to play volleyball. Kuru bullied him into joining the junior high volleyball team, where Kenma, surprisingly, thought it was a little fun. Kenma kept playing in high school, but eventually wanted to quit because the older players treated him like trash. Kuru once again bullied him into staying, reminding Kenma that he actually has some kind of quiet strength. Back to the present, Takeda, the human golden retriever, points out that Kenma isn't flashy like Kageyama, but he's still strong. Ukai explains that Kenma is good, because Nekoma's receivers are like human trampolines, always bouncing the ball back perfectly so Kenma can set up a million different attacks. In Karasuno, Kageyama has to drag the whole team like a tired horse. In Nekoma, Kenma has an army of support, making him shine. Even though Kenma looks like he's one nap away from death, he's the one controlling the whole game like a lazy puppet master. Meanwhile, Karasuno is sweating bullets, trying not to fall apart. The battle between these two dumpster fires is just getting started. Nekoma soon reaches set point. Hinata asks Kageyama for a toss, confident that he'll be able to score despite Kageyama warning him of how risky it will be now that Nekoma has reached set point. When Hinata goes for the attack, he opens his eyes and is shocked to see Inuoka had caught up to him and successfully stops the quick attack, winning the set for Nekoma. Hinata isn't discouraged, even as Inuoka continues to block him during the second set. Noticing Tsukishima's unease, Ukai explains that he isn't going to sub Hinata out yet, because he wants to use this opportunity to find a solution, but admits that he will take Hinata out of, he looks to be giving up. Everyone expects Hinata to eventually tire out and lose his will to fight, but they're shocked when Hinata simply smiles in excitement. Hinata remarks that it's different from the past, when he couldn't do anything about the blockers. This time, he has Kageyama, and he actually feels exhilarated competing with Inuoka. The next toss, Hinata tries to spike with his eyes open but ends up missing. Ukai quickly calls a timeout and explains to Kageyama that he should try a softer toss with Hinata this time in order to give Hinata more freedom in the air to make an attack. The first few times fail, and Hinata realizes that all this time he had been relying solely on Kageyama bringing the ball to him. He doesn't know what to do on his own and apologizes to his teammates for losing so many points. Tanaka and Asahi cheer him up and remind him that they can still regain those points. Daiichi adds that Hinata's alone when he jumps, but everyone else will always be behind him. Takeda notes that Hinata's still having trouble and wonders what to do. Ukai recounts a story his grandfather told him about the small giant, and how he built his style on getting around a blocker rather than past him. Just as he says this, Hinata finds a way to get the ball past Inuoka by changing the direction of the spike. It goes out, but Hinata and Kageyama are determined to try again. And that's not all. Hit the like and subscribe. Let's get on with the next recap.